welcome back. In this video, we're going to have a little bit of fun and go over what is your aspiration for building ships in Starfield. And there will be a poll at the end. But real quick, let's go over the poll from last week. The question was, will you play the main quest or story in Starfield? 2% of you said you will never complete it. Okay, all right, fair enough. 3% of you said not really interested in the story. Will do it if things get a little stale. And I understand that there's a lot going on in Starfield, so I can understand, you know what, if the story isn't your jam. But overwhelmingly, 89% say they will get the story done, but are in no rush to do it. So it sounds like a lot of people out there are going to be playing with a lot of different parts of the game and then going back to the story. And that's kind of my plan to go through it as well. And then 6% finishing the story ASAP because they want to know about those artifacts and what is at the end. So appreciate everybody for voting on the poll. And one more thing real quick, this Wednesday there is going to be a Starfield Dev Q&A at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So if you are around, I will be live streaming. We can go through the Q&A, kind of talk about some things as they're doing the Q&A. But if you're unable to make a live stream, I will make a video and put that out shortly after the Q&A is over. So if you want to be up to date on all the things I will be putting out, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and it greatly helps me out, so I appreciate it. So let's get back to talking about what kind of inspiration are we going to have when we're building out our ships in Starfield. Last year when they first showed off spaceship building and customizing in the Starfield gameplay reveal, a lot of people were really psyched up about it. But it wasn't until this year in the Starfield Direct that we actually saw the limitations or the lack of limitations when we are going to be able to build out our spaceships. During the Starfield Direct, they actually showed off quite a bit of variety of ships and different components and sizes of ships and just how large we will be able to make them, both laterally and vertically, which was nice to see as it does give us quite a bit of room to kind of play around in making ships and different kinds of configuration. Now, so far, a lot of what we've seen for the components about making spaceships is really kind of more of squared off and boxy type of components and not really a whole bunch of smooth and sleek and rounded type of spaceships or spaceship components. And that's not to say that some of that's not in the game, as I'm sure they have not even come close to showing us everything that they have in the game. And that's not even taking into account what the modding community will add later on down the line. But in talking to several people, even seeing some people's comments about the kind of ships they would like to make, I've seen a lot of references around some Star Wars and possibly making the Millennium Falcon, which actually seems to be kind of practical to make in Starfield. So that would be pretty cool to see. And well, what about a TIE fighter? Making a TIE fighter? Well, one of the things that's going to be kind of tough with the TIE fighter is the big, tall, vertical outer wings that the TIE fighter has. So we'll just have to see if we can mess around with some components to make a TIE fighter. And it might be we just have to make it pretty large. Now there's two that I'm actually looking forward to building from Star Wars, and that's going to be the Death Star and an Imperial Destroyer. As for the Death Star, I think it'd just be hilarious to be flying around space and just a big ball. And then for an Imperial Destroyer, I mean, come on, those things look menacing. What about some Star Trek ships? We got the Enterprise. Obviously, a lot of people are going to be excited to build that one. There's a lot of different ships to make in that USS fleet. But what about some Klingon ships, or maybe even some Vulcan type ships? Or what about the Borg Cube? I am very interested in making one of those. And to be pretty honest, that one should be pretty easy from all the components that we've seen for building ships. Are you gonna go more of a wildlife approach? What about a dog, a cat? What about a spider? What about a kangaroo? Me, well, as far as wildlife goes, I really would like to make a scorpion with the tail curve up over my main body of my ship and the cockpit actually be the stinger part of the tail. That's just one I'm really looking forward to making, is a scorpion. Or are you going out to make things look sexy, sleek, whatever looks good, whatever's practical, that's the way you're going. So really looking forward to getting the hands on the game and seeing really a lot of what the community is going to be posting for their creations on their spaceships. Now just remember this very important detail about spaceship building is that Todd Howard did say it is meant to be a little bit more for the end game do not really expect to be getting into building out spaceships so early on in the game. He said early on it's going to be more about upgrading your spaceship and adding on components as you need them, not so much building a new spaceship. And I'm also kind of curious if they're going to have a spaceship classification type system, and if they do have a system like that, what would be the metrics that kind of set standards for a ship classification? And one of the easier ways to probably do it would be by ship tonnage. So kind of curious if you have any thoughts on that, and let me know down below. Now for this week's poll, the link will be down in that pinned comment, and it will take you to this poll here. What will be your inspiration for building your ships in Starfield? Will it be Star Wars or Star Trek themes? Other movie, TV, game ideas for ships that you've seen in other areas? What about certain wildlife like animals or insects? Or are you going to be building out your spaceships to be practical, simple, and get it going? And if you have other ideas, there is the other selection. So really looking forward to seeing what everybody kind of comes up with when building their ships. And just remember, if the game doesn't really have components to make your ship build look the way you want it to, just remember there will be a modding community, and I'm sure they will get around to adding different components that we can incorporate into our shipbuilding process. Again, look out for that Starfield Dev Q&A coming this next Wednesday, August the 16th at 1 p.m. Eastern, and we'll see if we get some more clarification on some topics. Alrighty, take care.